Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to another performance coaching for empowered Black people live coaching session. We are here live on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. For the last few weeks, we have been covering the ways in which our goals for this year, resolutions, whatever you want to call them, can be threatened, and giving maybe a different perspective than you've been used to in terms of how you can protect your goals, how you can create a mindset and a system and strategies to ensure that you are able to continue on the road that you had very good intentions on starting and establishing it and seeing through for 2024. So we are going to continue the conversation today. I am going to give apologies because I do know that the live stream got cut right before I got to well, I think I covered most of the good stuff in the live, but I had some questions that I wanted to share with you all. And the live stream dropped right before I was able to present those. But if you go visit that video, the questions are in the description. So hopefully you did that already. If you did not, please do that. And I think I have some time here that I'm allotted to kind of go through them really quickly, but not in a manner for you to do any specific focus on. Hey, Arlene. Mark, you present. Oh, thank you. All right, my student, Arlene. Yes, I see you. Present and accounted for. Thank you so much for your diligent attention and participation, Arlene. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Are you streaming the correct platform so we don't have to, lose you again? Yeah, so I was just explaining that I have closed out. The challenge is that I have one laptop and I'm trying to do everything from that one laptop. And I had the stream drop a few months ago, and I learned what I needed to do then. I forgot to do it last week because I changed up the way that I'm coming to you. And so I forgot my protocol. So I didn't close it out. And that's why we ended up dropping last week. But it is closed. I am only using one. I usually am working. I do my work in Mozilla. I do, and I connect through the internet through Firefox, but I forgot to close that out. I had Firefox and Chrome last week open, and so it was too much. So, but I just have Chrome open now, so hopefully we will be able to get through for today with no hiccups. So if you are new to me and new to this channel, Performance Coaching for Empowered Black People, my name is Diane Thomas. I'm a mom, I'm a grandma, Gigi, auntie, cousin, friend, sister, friend, etc., and all the things that in ways that I want to love and serve people. Hopefully I am that, and they see me as such. I am also an empowered Black woman, and I have taken back my power from these constructs that we, in many different constructs and many different ways that we have found ourselves as Black people having to shrink ourselves into. I've taken back my power. And so I, as a certified high performance coach, am focused on working with empowered Black people who have taken back their power as well, or in the process of reclaiming their power, right? And I do that through helping us exercise self-determination through coaching on how to create lives of full engagement, joy, and confidence, while at the same time, yes, we can do those two things can exist at the same time. You can have a life of full engagement, joy, and confidence and you can do so while you are rejecting the constructs of Black excellence and Black exceptionalism. I use the term reject um, because I'm in these internet streets, and sometimes we have to be careful how we frame things. But however you are approaching your life and your intention to show up as a free Black person, and not ascribing to any preconceived notions, stereotypes, whatever term you want to use it, to exercise your freedom, then whatever term that is for you, I am here for you, and I am here for us. And I am here for us getting to a place where we can collectively help one another as we are moving, because I am all about service. We'll be talking a little bit about service today, how that all ties in again with us continuing to make sure that we are able to stay on track with our goals, resolutions, whatever we want to call them, in the spaces that we are in. So here at the Performance Coaching for Empowered Black People channel, I am integrating the concepts of certified high performance coaching, which are built on the, I guess, foundational pieces that science and scientific research, or science-based research, I don't know if it's scientific necessarily, has identified that the people who consider themselves or demonstrate the highest level of consistent achievement and performance demonstrate, and they seek clarity, they generate energy, they are courageous people, they are productive, they get things done, and they are influential people. They are able to spread that the who they are far and wide, and are able to get a lot of things accomplished. And those are essential pieces I felt that identified with me and rang true with me about who I aspire to be. I'm not there yet. I'm a work in progress, but I most definitely feel that I am in a position and want to continue to get myself in a position to where I can be that and show up as that every single day. And so that's what we do here. On Saturdays, I post videos that integrate those concepts: clarity, energy, courage, productivity, and influence into how we are achieving while Black. As I trained with that methodology, I recognized and struggled for some time to figure out how I was going to integrate what I was being taught with the realities of being Black and achieving while Black, because it is very different. We're different people. We are different than anybody else on the planet in terms of our experiences as human beings having spiritual experiences, right? So I wanted to be able to speak to our people specifically. And so I believe I have come up with an approach to do that. But I am open for suggestions and ways that we need to think maybe differently about it. So I would love to hear some challenging questions that can maybe challenge my thought process about it. And then here on Wednesdays, I am live. I call myself your YouTube performance coaching coach, giving you an opportunity while we have this platform, this YouTube platform, for you to tap in for a few minutes. And I discuss topics that influence and really impart, I think, the way that we show up for others as well as ourselves, so that we can be and do and elevate. So what I hope I'm bringing is practical pieces of information, practical insights, practical strategies that can help you think a little bit differently about ways that you can get to the levels that you want to get to, of heightened clarity, energy, courage, productivity, and influence, so you're able to live a joyous life, be confident, and be more engaged, because that's what we all want. That's what this I think sometimes we think that's something that we cannot have, but we can have it. We just need to structure our lives in ways that it will be conducive to that. And so coaching is the most definite way to do that. And so that's why I'm here in this arena, so you can kind of get a feel for my coaching style. I coach on uh, those specific pillars, as I mentioned before. But here I'm kind of just bringing you broad thoughts, and I also I am wanting to help to be in a space where I am able to receive as well, because this is a two-way street. So I welcome your questions and your comments in ways that you want to engage. So I think that covers me and what we're all about here. So last week, as I mentioned, this likely, well, I want to continue. Okay, so here's the deal. We have been talking over the last few weeks, since actually almost a month ago. It's probably been a month, a little bit more, in preparation for the new year that was coming in, the new calendar year, uh, talking about resolutions. It's a term people use. Some people use it, some people don't like it. I'm not a big fan of it. I get the gist of it and what it means. But to me, if we're works in progress, we're always resolving, and not only saying it, but doing the work to do things differently to get better outcomes. But I am aware from some research that I did that uh, there's some research that says that only about 16% of people who make resolutions keep them and are still on the path to working. Okay, so it's a work in progress. You resolve to do something, then you are creating a lifestyle, whatever it is you need to do to make sure that you're able to continue to make the change, to adjust to it, and then to keep it going. Right. So only about 16%, I think, of people are able to do that and maintain it consistently past 6 weeks. I think the majority, 84% or so of people who make so-called resolutions drop them between week 1 and week 6. So we are at the last day of January. There were 5 Wednesdays, I believe, in this month. And I think the month started on a Monday. So in any event, we're 5 weeks in, I believe, to the new year. So if I'm thinking, if what I'm sharing with you can help you get past next week, then you are in good stead with with the 16% that are able to continue. But a lot of times we need a plan to do that. We need to review some of the programming we have. We need to look at some of the things that were keeping us back and holding us back. We need to think differently. And so that's what over the last 5 weeks, 5 Wednesdays, I've been talking about. And so last week, we talked about how tapping into your superpowers can impact your growth trajectory, which is the whole purpose, right? Because we talked about desires, routines, goals, and tasks in terms of re-architecting the way that you approach resolutions or things that you want to do differently. They have to be based on big desires. And we talked about what those 4 essential desires were. And then we talked about how how you look at them in terms of re-architecting your mindset, and the importance of being very strategic. Strategy is everything. And looking at what we called superpowers. So I had put a diagram up last week about superpowers and understanding that the way you think, and I posted a video in the videos section of this channel about using the word can. And I don't know how much I went into that. I can't recall last week. But I tapped in, I called that video Activating Your Superpowers. And the first thing you do is using the word can, the way you use it, already automatically sets you up for success or failure. And so being able to summon your superpowers, so it's a decision that you make to summon your superpowers through social influence and self-regulation, can help you towards achieving those goals. And when those two meet, that's where service comes in. And so I talked a little very briefly about service, but the idea is tapping in a way there's greater intensity, and so that you can ignite that service, so you can set the stage for you to be stepping right into that service. Because despite the environments of home and work, and us achieving while Black or living while Black, we need to develop a mastery to live the best of who we are every single day, connecting with the right people, and doing so in meaningful and influential ways. And so as I was wrapping up last week with that statement, summoning and growing into the best of who you are this year, I had these questions, which I said before, you can find in the description of to last week's live, but I'll read them out very briefly here again, just to kind of give you context as we're stepping into this next piece that we'll be talking about today. So there were 5 questions. The first question was, what are your superpowers? So what are the things that you identify as success markers? And when I coach people on success markers, we are looking at what are the things that got you to the level of success that you have now, or what you believe can get you to levels of success in ways that are going to help you to tap in then to yourself, or to help you better self-regulate, and to enhance your social influence. So what were those superpowers? Or in other words, the success markers. I'll use the success markers. What are the things to help you get to success so that you can demonstrate those superpowers of social influence and self-regulation? And then the next question was, what are you grateful for at this stage of your life? And I think I may have asked that question before, but I think it's useful to continue to ask that as you continue to explore and experience 2024. You know, we're 31 days in, right? And then the next question was, what is the big aha that you had last year that you're carrying into 2024? What wisdom did you acquire that you, based on either what you said your resolutions are going to be, maybe there were resolutions that you actually realized last year and you had an aha about that. Well, what are you bringing from 2023 into 2024 in terms of wisdom that and maybe even thinking about why you're bringing it in? And then what is your primary desire for this year? Again, looking back to a couple of videos, we talked about desires and the 4 primary desires that a lot of us are building our goals around, resolutions, whatever you want to call it. So you may have 1 or 2 of those. And then what's one routine that you can do to make all of that happen? So we talked about routines and the importance of routinizing. And that word is a word that's used by Brendan Burchard, who is the creator of this approach that I've been sharing with you the last few weeks. Because everything you want to do and do differently, to do it better, you have to build a routine around it. We like to start with goals for change or whatever, but we need to know what those desires are first, and we pull our goals from the desires generally, and then we have to create some sort of a routine around them, which would encompass tasks as well. So as I mentioned, just you can refer to last week's video to get more context on that. So tonight, what I wanted to do is, the big question is, are your resolutions getting zapped? And there may have been some curiosity about that because it is an acronym. And so I'll be talking about what that acronym is and asking that question as we move through this. So um, again, going back to the challenges of making sure that we're able to show up. So again, whether you want to resolve to do something differently or continue something that you know is working well for you, uh, in framing it in terms of social influence and self-regulation and the product that comes from that, which is service. Uh, People who are not tapping in to what that looks like for them are essentially denying themselves of the opportunity to serve. So if you're not tapping into your self-regulation, again, very briefly, is just essentially how you are um, managing your emotions, how you're managing your responses to things, right? And then the social influences we know is how you are able um, to 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 model the way to challenge certain thinking by people um, may be in your circle, having challenging them to do things differently, and even challenging the way that they think. Right. So you're not able really to tap in that way to a level of service if or realize that level of service if you're not tapping into those superpowers. And a lot of ways that you may have opportunity to do that with other people, of course yourself as well, but with other people is being a problem solver. um, and this may be a touchy or a sensitive type of perspective to have, um, because a lot of people are welcoming of advice or welcoming of opinions. Some people are not, but I think everybody wants or is open to considering a solution to a problem if it's presented the right way. And one of the ways that you can show up in your superpower, one of the ways you can show up as summoning your best self is being a problem solver for people. So, and doing so in terms of offering your service, not just saying, oh, well, I have the solution. You should do blah, 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 and you should this and that. Not so much that, but actually being of service as you're offering whatever that solution is to them. So I know for me, I am always, I think, challenging myself to be present enough and self-regulated enough and and tapped into opportunities where I can demonstrate social influence enough so that I can, when I see something presented to me that may come to me either directly or indirectly, that I can offer a potential solution to the person and the situation that is at hand. So I think there are always opportunities for service when you are able to bring ease, relieve some pain, or bring some gain to someone. So that's one way to think about, again, just service, because I wanted to talk a little bit more about the service piece. I don't know if I did so much last week, but definitely wanted to tap into that some more. And really, there's an intention behind that, as I mentioned before. So it's really intentionally integrating intention with energy is where you are, to me, at your highest level of service, at your highest level of bringing your spirit, who you are, um, to service for people, to be of service, to be of help to people. Because I think uh, as we are all working through whatever these solutions or resolutions, excuse me, and goals may be, we're going to also uh, interact with people who are in their spaces and trying to get things done as well. And I think you can most definitely elevate yourself as a problem solver, as a go-to person. And I'm going to qualify that by saying you're not necessarily volunteering. Again, I talked about capes and carry capes and things for people last week, and as women do tend to do some of that. But um, being living in integrity to who you are, I think, is tapping into how much you give as well as how much you receive, and ways to do that that builds um, your own confidence. I think you can find ways to do that through service that is not going to be or doesn't need to be exploitive on your part. So so I regulate that for myself as well. I measure what I can do in the spaces that I'm in, and then if it's something that I can make some time to do, I definitely will do that because I want to offer my level of service in that way. So I think it's important for you to do that while you are on your journey to getting to the goals that you are wanting to achieve. I think that piece is really, really powerful. So I wanted to stop here and ask you to think about this question, and it's something you can consider now or later as you're looking at this. But how well are you tapping into your superpowers to serve and express your spirit? As I've explained it just now, it may give you some context of a way to think about tapping in to your superpowers. First off, seeing yourself as an empowered person. So using the words I can as opposed to I can't. And then how you are able to do that, um, and looking at how you can respond, choosing how you can respond, self regulation, and in terms of the social influence, the level of influence you can have in your social circle so that you can serve and express your spirit. So, how well are you tapping in? So, it's a question for you. And I can go back, at the end of this and go ask you all those questions again. So, what I want to do now is kind of segue to um, a couple of slides that I have here to do some further exploration on some of the things that are the challenges that we have in terms of making sure that we're able to consistently tap in, consistently summon the best of who we are, and some of the challenges that are around that. So I want to quickly look at this concept of ZAP. And it's an acronym, as I mentioned before. And what we tend to do, and what may be the case for the 84% of people who are not able to keep their resolutions, has to do with this, has to do with ZAP, very possibly. When you're doing something new, you're challenging yourself, you're making that decision. It's a change, it's something different. You don't have a routine built around it. There's no habits, no practices that you do. It's brand new. And if you are not already a person who sees themselves as empowered and as someone who can make things happen in their lives, it's very easy if you're taking on something, a big new thing that you're doing, to be thrown off in some way and not feel capable. So the first letter or the first concept here in this acronym is ZAP. Of ZAP is zoom. So it's zooming into a situation. So what happens is if it's something that's new, you're very hyper focused on this new thing that you've decided that you want to do, or this different thing. It may not even be new, maybe something you've done before, doing it differently. We tend to zoom into it. And it can tend then to be a situation that is challenging for you in terms of how you are going to uh, see yourself doing it. And you may actually see yourself as not being able to accomplish it. And so, as you are looking at uh, the change that you need to make, you may get a little frustrated. You may get, because of what you think is required to do it and what you believe your capability is of doing it. And there may be a big gap between what you're thinking in your mind to that. So then you tend to attach that deficit that you feel you exists to yourself, and you make it a personal, you make it something negative. You make it something that's a blemish, something that makes you incompetent. You attach yourself to the challenge of the situation, or what the situation presents, and you make it personal. You incorporate it. You call that your identity, right? And then that causes you, obviously, to not feel very good about your ability to get it done. So as a result, you procrastinate. You find every reason under the sun to not get it done. You find other things to do that in your mind you say are more, um, maybe you may think are better or easier for you to do. Um, and if you're when you procrastinate, then you're pausing, you're stopping the momentum. So you may have had some momentum up to a certain point, but then you stop it because of this noise in your head. And you may then even begin to bring in some very detrimental behaviors as a result of that. Depends on how extreme this is, depends on how you tend to deal with challenges. But uh, this acronym and these specific concepts within it very likely oftentimes are the reasons why a lot of people are not able to move in the spaces that they want to and get the momentum that they want to around achieving their goals. Uh, that then is, and this is a diagram. I think I did sort of present a diagram last week. I changed the diagram up a little bit now to add some of these concepts, or drill down a little bit more on the concepts. So uh, we have two sets of people, or two sets of thinking, I guess, that people can have when they're looking to integrate something new or do something different. The the people at the top, we talked about them last week. We talked about people who are summoning the best of who they are. They're summoning and tapping into their superpowers on their way to realizing their desires, which are built on routines, goals, and tasks. So those are people who are in spaces where they can be launched. They can launch whatever the new thing is that they want to do. The idea that they have, the resolution, whatever it is, they're able to do that at that point because they are tapped in to the aspects that we talked about last week. The folks on the bottom is what I want to spend some time talking about tonight, are people who haven't really been seeing themselves as people who are regularly tapping in to their superpowers. So when you're trying to do something new and changing a habit, and there's all kinds of research and people's opinions about how long it takes you to change a habit, adapt a new habit, adapt a new lifestyle, and all of that. So I'm not going to like debate that. But one thing I do know, and I actually saw an email that I get from a consultant. He's a management consultant, but he talked about that and he used an acronym, RIDE, but I don't remember what it means. But essentially, what he was saying was that you have to dedicate regular, intensive, directive action on a strategic basis, that you're doing it on a regularly with a strategy to make the thing to realize some difference. So you can't sporadically, and I think we know this in theory. Uh, you can't just decide one day you're going to do something and then, for whatever reason it drops off, right? As we are talking about with resolutions, you have to be committed to it. And if you're not doing it regularly, it's not likely to work. And so a lot of the reasons that people may not be showing up in the ways that they need to, summoning the best of who they are, and I don't know if this is you or not, but this may be something that you want to consider, is having to do with these three concepts that I identified here, that are identified here. So one of them, in terms of building out more from the Z.A.P conversation, because Z.A.P is essentially what we see happening as the end result. But what leads up to that are three concepts. And the first one is mental distortion. So there's a negative emotion that comes from negative self-evaluation. Now, we all have these little voices that pop up in our heads, and that are, and there's a word, another acronym called ANTS, and I can't remember what it means, but I think it means like adverse negative thoughts or something like that, that we live with. And we've managed to cope and get things done anyway, but it doesn't mean they're necessarily gone. We may be able to tamp them down. But when there are things that maybe we've been putting off for a long time, not doing, that seem to be physically or maybe even emotionally painful for us to do, a lot of times is because we have mentally distorted whatever it is. Okay, when I was talking about the Z in Z.A.P, zooming in to the situation and have mentally distorted what it actually is, or what impact we think that we're going to get from it, and we automatically see it as something negative. So we evaluate ourselves in attachment to that thing, and in doing so, it really causes us to miss the big picture, of especially the possibilities, because when we're the type of person that's zooming in and just, we can't see the forest for the trees, we're missing a lot of detail. We're missing a lot of opportunities. We're missing a lot that can actually help us if we take that we get overwhelmed by what we're seeing. And so we've distorted what is actually really there. If you're a person, and it depends on how serious this challenge is for you, and I wouldn't even give an example of what what something like that could be. But if you find where this is a big part of your life and it's keeping you back from making relevant strides in moving forward in your life, then it may be something that you would want to talk with a therapist about. As I've mentioned several times here, I'm not a therapist. I am a coach. I'm a person that takes you from where you are to where you want it to be. A therapist is someone who is trained in helping people through trauma. And so there may be some trauma related to the fact that you're looking at things in a very distorted way and not very healthful ways. And so if that's you, and you would know what that thing is, that maybe you say, if for the last 10 years you've been resolving to do, but you can't quite get to it, it may be that there's a bigger thing that you need to address as far as that, in terms of how you're seeing yourself and identifying with that particular thing. So that's most definitely uh, a big reason to seek out professional help for that. Um, so one of the other things here is around fatigue, and fatigue is a uh, very real challenge for us as Black people. Um, just this last past Saturday, I posted a video uh, on this channel talking about how fear, fatigue, and frustration can really sabotage performance. And, we know generally people have, everybody gets tired, everybody has something that they fear, everybody is frustrated at some point in time. We have all the regular types of fear, frustration, and fatigue like other people groups. Is always um, got another layer on it. And it's because of who we are as Black people, achieving Black people living while Black, right? So there's always going to be that. And it's just very different for us, and not to be dismissed. And so we have very simple ways of dealing with fatigue, or very maybe innocent ways of dealing with fatigue sometimes, in that we take our mental checkout and we'll go pick up our phone and we're scanning things, or we are on social media doing the most a lot of times in terms of wasting time, because we're on overload, and it's a way that we distract ourselves from the things that we need to do. Um, but it also does correlate with fatigue, because the more that we are seeking that distraction because we're feeling overloaded, the more fatigue we are going to feel, because we are then telling ourselves that we need to get to this thing. We haven't gotten to this thing. We're more frustrated. That makes us more tired. And it's like this vicious loop. Um, and then a lot of us also, because we're tired, we may just say, well, there's this other thing on the list that I wanted to go do. Matter of fact, there's 10 other things on the list that I wanted to do this year. So let me just put this thing down here because it's just wearing me out. And I'm going to pick this other thing up. And then we may be the type of people um, that, and that may happen with the 84% of folks who don't see through past 6 weeks, right? Because that's 6 weeks in, they're like, I'm tired. I'm doing something else now. I'm going to move on to to number 2 or 3 or 5, whatever it is, right? Um, and then they stick with that maybe for a week, and then they move on to something else. So we're serial starters because we're tired. We starting something new for us, or for a lot of people, right? It takes energy to do, but we tend to get that motivation because it's something new and different. So we'll do it for a until we get bored with it, or until we run back up against these challenges that I was just talking about. Um, and then we leave it because it's too hard. We think it's too hard to spend the time and the effort to try to work it out. It's something that a lot of people do, and I don't know too many of these people personally, but I've heard of folks like this, and I probably know them, and maybe they just don't share it with me. How much they start and stop and start and stop things, because in their mind they're getting something done when they start something new, but they don't ever finish. They just leave the thing that was there before. Um, so that can wear you out as well, because just the constant starting and stopping and moving from one thing to the next is exhausting. So they, though, may think it's much in their mind easier to get tired from starting something new as opposed to get tired from seeing the thing through. It's very interesting, but some people do think that way um, as well. And again, I do want to go to just double back in terms of the role that procrastination plays, because zooming in on something that is uncomfortable when you're looking at that acronym again. Um, Again, it's because you're thinking that you can't handle it. Again, you can think of what that thing could be. I use an example of, um, just to give you some context. Uh, if, for instance, one of your resolutions was to start some exercise program or something like that, you decided you wanted to join a Y to do it. You put this time aside to go to the gym, but then the day comes and maybe there's some class you signed up for, and then you decide in your mind, well, there's probably just getting. I've seen the people who go to the Y, and they seem like they're already in really good shape, and I don't want to get in there and get out of breath, and I can't continue through the session, and I have to drop out and all of this. And it's really a challenge then, because as you're thinking through it, going back to zooming in, going back to attaching that feeling to yourself of saying, well, I'm a failure. Um, and, it leading to all these things I was talking about in terms of the procrastination, as I'm explaining more, this is where that comes in. That procrastination helps to just solidify for you why you just don't want to even attempt to move through it anymore. Um, so I did also want to ask you just to think about that before I got any further. I wanted to make sure I asked you, in terms of thinking about procrastination, what you have been procrastinating about. Is there some specific thing for you that you could think of that you've been procrastinating about? Because I think uh, being aware of it is the first step towards assessing it. Because then what you can do is ask yourself, if you are, why are you? What's the thing? What's why it is that you're not moving as into seeing this through. Why you're bringing up or allowing distractions to take you away from that thing, whatever it is. What it is. And so, again, just wanting you to have the conversation with yourself, I think, is the first step. And then you're able to really get a handle on breaking that down. And that's one of the things that I do help my clients do as they're coming up against these recurrent themes in their lives, because we all have recurrent themes, and some of them are really great. Some of them are keeping us back. And so in doing that, we have to be very honest with ourselves about why that is happening. So think about what you may be procrastinating about. Is it something that is just a matter of you not having the best strategy for, and so you need to maybe plan out how you want to be more successful at seeing this through? Or is it something deeper that you need to get some professional help in working through? It's really, going back to the jumping around and people being some people, because I know it's not you, you're a person who sees things through. It's there's a good feeling that we get from that. Trying things new things make us excited. It's activating our oxytocin, those feel good hormones, and we are it distracts us for a little bit from the negative feelings that we were having, and the mental distortion, and helping us feel accomplished, because we're like, yeah, I started this one thing today, And that alone could be enough feel good hormones to get you through that day. The challenges again is something may likely stop you again. So you don't want to be in that situation and have this loop going because you'll just be moving in a circle. And we, as empowered Black people, and Eyes are certified performance coach here on YouTube, we talk about elevation. We talk about moving to the next level and getting there and staying there at a sustained way. So dealing in mediocrity is moving in cycles and circles, and that does not work for us. So I also want you to think about how will you combat fatigue this year? If you identify fatigue as a reason that you have not been moving on some of the initiatives and goals, resolutions, whatever term you want to use, how are you planning to combat it this year? Is this the year that you're going to say, that's it? I'm not letting fatigue run my life anymore. I am intending on doing things much differently. What is your plan? How do you plan to combat fatigue? And then finally, on this diagram here, we have unhappy peers. And as soon as I heard that term, I thought about energy vampires. And I don't know if that's a term that you use often. I use it. And these are just people. These are your friends, family, acquaintances, whomever, who are around you, and they're not contributing in constructive ways to get themselves out of their own ruts. Matter of fact, their ruts are seeping into your life. They're bringing them to you. And you don't even necessarily have to be engaging with those people. It's just the energy of them, if they're in their space, can bring you down. They're unhappy. If they're unhappy, if they're negative, that energy is going to come on you. We've got I actually do have some energy vampires I'm working through myself, and I've adapted ways to navigate those relationships with people. But I challenge you, and this is the part with service comes up all the time, again, because people like that, I don't know how much you are going to actually able to be constructively of service to them if they are people who are takers and not givers. But I then challenge you to find a community that you can be a part of that is going to appreciate your level of service, and that you can tap into to build community, because community is like my word. I have words that I select for various years or whatever. And I think maybe it's more so in terms of the way that I'm expressing myself and engaging in the world is really community. I know I can't do a lot of the things that I want to get done, a lot of the goals that I have. I can't get them done without having a solid, happy, positive peer group around me. And so I am working to build that consistently. So I challenge you to make this, an awesome year of community for yourself. Be around ambitious, generous people who want to share, people who want to give, and that's a deliberate task. Going back to the desires, routines, goals, and tasks, that's a deliberate task that you are putting in place so that you are able to create a life of engagement, joy, and confidence on the highest levels. So with that, I challenge you to really think about who the energy vampires are in your circle. Be honest. I know it's not you, but because you wouldn't be here if you were one of those people. but we do have them in our spaces. And how are you going to deliberately create community in your life this year? And so that is probably an additional goal or resolution to add to, but however that works out, I think that's essential. And it ties all back in to the energy and the spirit you're going to bring towards making sure that you can keep the momentum up and to achieve the goals and that you have selected for yourself. So with that, I am going to just check the chat because I think I saw a few folks in here. So let's see. Thank you, Grace. You like the diagram? Yeah, I kind of thanks to Canva put that together. Mhm. Yes, so good to see Grace here. Thank you for joining today. So, don't know if we have any questions or any perspectives that anyone wants to share in terms of how you are able. Are you seeing some of these concepts here, or Z.A.P concept, or anything you want me to go over that may not have been very clear to you? I can do that again. I can also, while you're thinking about that, ask you please to like and subscribe to the channel. I am closing in, I think, my second month of these lives, and hopefully they're getting better. So if you've been with me from the beginning, I would love to hear what you think about that. But I certainly hope it's bringing value to you. And if it is, I would love for you to subscribe. If this is your first time here, subscribe to the channel so that you can get the notifications, and hit the like button on the video so that other people can benefit from this as well. So, so I'm going to just quickly go over these questions again. Let's see. I have them on cards, so I have to make sure I get these out. Hey, Abana. Hey. Routine produces improvement. Yes. Yes. It's something we take for granted. It's really interesting, you know, how the mind works. And you know, I learned a long time ago, if you don't measure it, then it really doesn't matter. Measurements matter, and you can measure that in, you know, in terms of the routines that you create for your life is a way of measuring as well, because it means you've taken time out to systemize the change. And so getting to do that on a regular basis in a way that is going to help you make sure that you can maintain, that's really going to be the key. That's the difference between achieving and not achieving. So yes. So the questions again were for you to think through and make a note for yourself. The first one was, are you tapping into your superpowers to serve and to express your spirit? That was the first question. The second one for consideration was, how have you been what have you been procrastinating about? The next one. And then thirdly, how will you combat fatigue this year? In a very deliberate way, how are you going to combat fatigue? And then, who are the energy vampires in your circle? How are you going to deliberately create community? And again, those energy vampires could be coworkers. They could be a boss. They could be somebody you need to report to. Um, so how are you? Who are they? And it may be at least enough, depending on how sensitive the relationship is, for you to be able to identify who they are. I did, in doing some research, see where, there's lots of articles on energy vampires and how to deal with them. So that maybe if it's a reality for you, uh, I did see some really good ideas. And one of those ideas were around drawing boundaries, having boundaries. So you have standards, things that are non-negotiables for you in how you're going to engage with people. And if those standards aren't respected, or people aren't meeting those standards, you don't even entertain them. And then those boundaries, again, making very clear the parameters within which you're going to engage with people, time, or in the way that you do it, etc. So those are two that I could think of the top of my head, for you. Abena says, it helps me to be clear on priorities too. Absolutely. Setting up those routines. I've spoken a couple times about, when I'm coaching with people and I have them because priority is a whole session that I coach on. And getting even to the point of the habit of, if there's a thing that you're wanting to do and you've been procrastinating, for instance, but it's something minor and it's a lot of it, I shouldn't say, if it's minor is the word, but it's something that it's really because you hadn't really put the time and effort into actually thinking through how you can get it done. So maybe it's some book that you started reading and you didn't finish. And you say, well, by the end of February, I want to be done reading the book. And because it's going to lead you to be able to do some other thing, whatever it is. And so you kind of already plan out, well, this book is 225 pages long. You kind of decide if you're going to read a chapter in one sitting, or you're going to read a couple whatever those pages break down to be at one sitting. But you block time. Block time is an incredible tool for managing, and maybe even if it's something on the less caustic side of things, able for you to manage to do and see some progress with it. Because if you just break that task down, the goal down, you build a routine around block time. So your routine is Saturdays from 2 to 4 p.m. I am reading this book. I have some, maybe there's some worksheets or some notes or something that you need to do along with it, that you do that at the same time. But that is undisturbed time. It's already on your calendar. So nobody else can schedule time in there. You don't schedule time, so you honor that for yourself. And you backtrack from maybe the end of February to today to say, okay, this is how many pages I need to read, or how many chapters I need to read, so that I can be done by February 28th, or is this a leap year? I don't know. This is a leap year, no. 28th or 29th. So you can be done. Block time is really essential in getting hunkered down and getting something completed during that period of time. So I would definitely advise you to use that as your billing. That's part of your routine, routinizing the goal, is having that routine of, if it's Saturdays at 2 to 4 that you're reading, then that's what you're doing, and you're honoring that as well. So I think that's all I have for you tonight. Dr. Grace, hey. Those questions are really powerful if one takes the time to really think about each of them. Yes, thank you for that. I, sometimes they're tough, but I like to challenge myself. So I answered them myself actually before I brought them to you. So some things are very eye opening. Um, and I even, there may be even questions that you want to ask people who are closer to you as well. Maybe you're working, I know too, I haven't talked about too much, but maybe you're working on some resolutions that involve other people, some goals that involve other people. And you may think you're on the same page with them with some of these things that you want to get done. But you're seeing them experience ZAP, okay? You're watching them struggle with something, mental distortion, fatigue, you know, unhealthy peers, etc. Or you're seeing them struggle. You may not know exactly what it is, but it may be actually good for you if you're working within a group, or it's your significant other, whomever, to ask these questions as well of them. Arlene says, I've been using live quiet co-working sessions on YouTube to really get focused work done. 25-minute work, 5-minute break, lather, rinse, repeat. Exactly. That's the block timing. Exactly. Yeah, and I know, there are people online that are doing those on regular time. You and I follow someone that does that regularly, and they're just sharing that space and holding that space for us. Um, you're welcome, Grace. You are very welcome. Exactly. So I don't want to keep you. It looks like we're over. I don't think I've ever gone over an hour. So this is hopefully good. I don't know. Hopefully you got some good value out of this today. I don't want to keep you any longer. So if you do not have any questions, I will let you go, encouraging you again to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for this channel. I love coaching Black people. I love Black people, so I love coaching Black people. I love helping us get to higher spaces, the places, and reclaiming the places that we belong. And so if you find this is of value, please spread the word. And I do hope that you have a great rest of the evening. And God willing, we will be back here next week. Same time, same space. Until then, be safe and well. Thanks, everybody. Oh, you are very welcome, Arlene. You are very welcome. All right. Take care. Have a great night.